Chapter 1130. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly as she looked at Jiang Yi's troubled expression. She looked carefree and calm. There's no way I can hide this. I'm currently at Orange Realm Level 1. You can easily tell that I'm at Orange Realm Level 1. Bailey Hongzhuang was calm. Although she was no match for Han Xiling, she was still at Orange Realm Level 1 at her age. Her talent in cultivation was not bad. Therefore, she could tell him her true strength without hesitation. When Jiang Yi wanted to use this point to attack her, Jiang Yi had already made a big mistake. Everyone saw a faint orange glow appearing in Bailey Hongzhuang's palm. They immediately understood that Bailey Hongzhuang was really at Orange Realm Level 1. When Jiang Yi saw the orange light flashing in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, his face suddenly changed, and his eyes widened as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. From what he knew, Bailey Hongzhuang was a good-for-nothing who could not cultivate until she was 15 years old. How could she have become an Orange Realm Level 1 cultivator? That was a huge change. Bailey Hongzhuang's aura made everyone understand her true strength. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang's calm expression, everyone felt that Jiang Yi's suspicious behavior was despicable. Thinking about it, the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't cultivate in the past was not a good thing for her. It was just that this matter had already passed, but Jiang Yi still wanted to bring it up. Wasn't this just exposing people's scars? Poking at someone's scars was something that no one present would like. Palace Master Jiang, now that things have come to this, you should believe me, right? Bewitching's voice was heard. His sharp eyes shone with a cold and iron-blooded light. His every move was filled with the natural dominance of a king. Jiang Yi's face turned pale. This was completely out of his expectations. He could still remember Bewitching's angry face. It seemed like he would be severely punished this time. Xiao Hongzhen frowned as he looked at Jiang Yi. He thought that Jiang Yi would give Bewitching a fatal blow. Who would have thought that it was not the case at all? On the contrary, what he did helped Bailey Hongzhuang. If they had known that Bailey Hongzhuang was at Orange Realm Level 1, they would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was not strong enough. Now with Jiang Yi's words, everyone knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had a problem with her dantian and couldn't cultivate. Now that she had broken through to the first level of the Orange Realm, didn't it mean that Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation talent was extremely outstanding? Sensing the dissatisfaction in Xiao Hongzhen's eyes, Jiang Yi felt even more depressed. This was also beyond his expectations. I want to go in. At this moment, Han Xiling's voice was heard outside the meeting hall. Han Xiling was in a bad mood. She would not miss the opportunity to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang. However, she did not expect to be stopped outside the door. Miss Han, you are not allowed to enter the meeting hall without permission, the gatekeeper said. The meeting hall was always used to discuss important matters of the sect. Ordinary people were not allowed to enter. Even though Han Xiling had a high position in Tiangang sect, Han Xiling was not allowed to enter this place as she wished. Chapter 1131. No way. The gatekeeper didn't give Han Xiling any face at all. When it came to the core of the sect, he absolutely couldn't let anyone in. Otherwise, the person who would be punished would be him. Seeing that the gatekeeper was so unreasonable, Han Xiling's cold and moving face couldn't help but show a touch of anger. If it was a normal day, she wouldn't enter the conference hall at all. But today's matter in the conference hall had a lot to do with her. This guy blocked her and didn't let her in, really hateful. Seeing this scene, Tao Tsongrong couldn't help but whisper in Han Xiling's ear. Miss, why don't you try shouting? Since this matter had a lot to do with Miss and Great Elder was in the conference hall, as long as he heard Miss's words, he would definitely let her in. Listening to Tao Tsongrong's words, Han Xiling's eyes lit up. Indeed, this was the best way. I want to go in. Han Xiling raised his voice and shouted at the closed door of the conference hall. The soundproofing of the conference hall had always been very good. It was precisely because of this that it was impossible for others to know the content of the discussion in the conference hall from outside the door. Therefore, when Han Xiling shouted, he also expanded his voice to the maximum. With the support of Yuan Li, it could be transmitted into the conference hall. Listening to Han Xiling's words, everyone in the conference hall couldn't help but look at Han Hongyi. The discussion in the conference hall had always been taboo to be disturbed. Han Xiling grew up in Tiangang sect since he was a child. Now that he actually shouted outside the door, everyone couldn't help but frown. Han Hongyi was also a little surprised, but he also understood that Han Xiling must have wanted to know the situation. So he did this. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was standing by the side, Han Hongyi's heart also had some emotions. No wonder Xiling couldn't win against Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang had always been calm and polite so far. Compared to her, Xiling was much worse in these aspects. Let me in quickly. Han Xiling saw that there was no result after he shouted, so he couldn't help but continue shouting. No matter what, she must participate in today's meeting. Only when she was present could everyone understand the gap between her and Bailey Hongzhuang. She believed that everyone would choose to stand on her side. Hearing Han Xiling's shouts, the frowns on everyone's faces became deeper and deeper. Such a loud commotion outside the assembly hall was truly inappropriate. Black Tortoise Hall Master Gu Jingqing couldn't help but say, "Great Elder, it doesn't seem appropriate for Xiling to shout outside the door like this." Hearing Gu Jingqing's words, Han Hongyi felt a little helpless. His granddaughter had been spoiled by him. However, he never felt that there was anything wrong with it. After all, in terms of cultivation, Han Xiling had always done well. With the current situation, Han Xiling would definitely not be satisfied if he did not come in. Thinking of this, Han Hongyi couldn't help but look at Di Beichen and said, "Young sect master, I wonder if you can let Xiling in?" "Young sect master, you have always known Xiling's feelings for you. If it were on a normal day, Xiling would not make a lot of noise outside the conference hall. Since today is about love, why don't you let her in?" Xiao Hongjin quickly said. Now they didn't know how to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang. Only after Han Xiling came there might be a way to change the situation. Chapter 1132. As Han Hongyi and Xiao Hongjin's words fell, the other elders present also voiced their agreement. After all, they had watched Di Beichen and Han Xiling grow up. If Han Xiling could really be together with Bailey Hongzhuang, they would also be very happy. Now that Di Beichen already had someone he liked, one could imagine how Han Xiling felt. Since it had already come to this step, it was better to let Han Xiling understand it. It could be regarded as an understanding of this matter. Di Beichen didn't care about other people's comments. His gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Han Xiling's previous actions had really disappointed him. At this point, he also understood that if he didn't show enough determination, he would really harm Han Xiling. Of course, he was more concerned about Hongzhuang's feelings. Noticing Di Beichen's gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and nodded quietly. Since Han Xiling wanted to come in, even if they stopped Han Xiling, she wouldn't stop. This trouble, it was better to take advantage of today's opportunity to completely solve it. With Han Xiling's proud personality, if Di Beichen rejected her in front of everyone, Han Xiling probably wouldn't have the face to continue pursuing Di Beichen and Tiangang sect. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't object, Di Beichen said, "Let her in." After Han Xiling shouted for a while, the door of the meeting hall finally opened. A touch of joy lingered on that beautiful face. Han Xiling immediately walked into the meeting hall. She knew that Big Brother Di still had her in his heart. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Han Xiling just glanced at her in disgust, and then walked to Han Hongyi's side. Everyone's gaze fell on Han Xiling. Han Hongyi looked at Han Xiling, and there was a bit of helplessness between his eyebrows. Di Beichen's attitude was too determined and persistent. Now that Xiling was here, he didn't know whether it was good or not. If Xiling could stop thinking about him, it might not be a bad thing. He was most worried that Xiling would be stubborn. "Young sect master, all of us are optimistic that Han Xiling will be your wife. Do you really want to take a woman with no status as your wife?" Xiao Hongjin immediately said. He wanted to take advantage of this good opportunity to create a rift between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. It was best to let Han Xiling completely give up. In this way, once Di Beichen lost everything, it would be much easier for him to make a move. Looking at Han Xiling, everyone's expression also changed a bit, revealing a bit of complexity. After all, Han Xiling and Di Beichen had always been a golden couple in their eyes. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was also outstanding, they had more feelings for Han Xiling. Seeing Xiao Hongjin's words, Di Beichen's eyes also showed a touch of displeasure. This old guy, now he was really doing things more and more blatantly. Palace Master Xiao, you seem to think too highly of yourself. Do you think it's useful just because you are optimistic? Bewitching pursed his thin lips, and his voice was cold and majestic. Xiao Hongzhen's face darkened. Bewitching's words were a slap in the face. However, Han Shiling's face was even more ugly. Bewitching's words were rejecting her in front of everyone. Han Hongyi saw Bewitching say such words, and there was a touch of anger in his eyes. Chapter 1133. Young Sect Master. We are all your elders here. What's wrong with giving some opinions? Han Hongyi raised his voice, and his dignified and weathered face was filled with anger. When the sect master left, he handed you over to us. Even when the sect master was here, he was very optimistic about you and Xiling being together. Now that you have taken the initiative to find a girl back, we have nothing to object to. With Han Hongyi's words, the expressions of all the elders and temple masters present changed a little. They didn't expect that after Han Xiling came, Han Hongyi's attitude would change so much. However, they also understood that Han Hongyi had always been protective. Han Xiling was his lifeblood, so this approach was not unexpected. Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing couldn't help but frown. Han Hongyi's words seemed to be too harsh. When it came to matters of love, as elders, they naturally had people who were optimistic, but they couldn't force Bewitching. Xiao Hongzhen and Jiang Yi looked at each other, and there was a burst of joy in their hearts. This was the situation they wanted to see most. The corners of Bewitching's mouth hooked up in a devilish smile, and his dark, deep eyes surged with a gloomy luster. Great Elder, since you also said that it was an opinion, what's wrong with me not accepting it? Seeing Han Hongyi taking advantage of his seniority, Bewitching's words became more and more impolite. As the young sect master of Tiangang sect, he even let others intervene in this kind of thing. Then he didn't need to be the young sect master anymore. Hearing this, Han Hongyi's face became even more ugly. Just as Han Hongyi was about to refute, Bewitching's voice had sounded again. There's no need to say anything else. If Great Elder is not happy with my decision, then how about you be the sect master of Tiangang sect? Bang! Bewitching slammed his palm on the table, and the good table was directly shattered. Bewitching didn't blink, and his cold eyes stared straight at Han Hongyi. The domineering and noble aura of a superior person permeated the air, and the entire meeting hall seemed to be enveloped by a layer of pressure. As soon as these words came out, all the elders and hall masters present knelt down. Bewitching's words showed that Bewitching was really angry. The situation had become serious. Your subordinate doesn't dare. Han Hongyi's face turned red. Although he was in a bad mood, he could only bow his head when Bewitching suppressed his identity. When Han Xiling saw Bewitching treating Han Hongyi in such a manner, she gradually clenched her fists under her sleeves. Previously, Bewitching's words had completely rejected her. Now that he said such words again, he was not giving her any face at all. Didn't this mean that if she wanted Big Brother D to marry her, her grandfather would have to be the sect master of Tiangang sect? This was simply an impossible matter. In that case, it would be impossible for Big Brother D to like her. When Han Xiling understood this, her face turned pale, and she felt as if her heart had been violently smashed. She simply couldn't believe what she had just heard. She liked Bewitching so much, yet Bewitching had used such a decisive and cruel method to reject her in front of everyone. Her originally proud heart was instantly shattered into pieces. She was such a high and mighty woman, yet she was now abandoned like a worn-out shoe. Her gaze fell upon Bailey Hongzhuang, who was standing at the side, and an indescribable hatred rose in Han Xiling's heart. Chapter 1134. Great Elder, the young sect master has his own ideas. Let's not stop him. Qin Ai had a faint smile on his face. The atmosphere was so stiff that he could only stand up and smooth things over. That's right. Since the sect master is not here, the young sect master represents the sect master. Since the young sect master has someone he likes, as elders, we only need to give our blessings to the young sect master. After Qin Ai spoke, Gu Jingqing's voice also rang out. He knew that this matter was completely caused by Xiao Hongzhen and Jiang Yi. And they were also very clear about their wishful thinking. Back then, the young sect master was forced to leave because of his leg disease, and he and Qin Ai were helpless. Now that the situation had changed, they naturally could not let Xiao Hongzhen and Jiang Yi cause trouble. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the situation in front of her. Whether it was Xiao Hongzhen, Jiang Yi, or Han Hongyi, they were all people who took advantage of their seniority. Although they were all afraid of Di Beichen's identity on the surface, they were obviously not so convinced. Bailey Hongzhuang was not surprised by this. When the sect master left, Di Beichen was indeed too young and did not know enough about the affairs of the sect. He must have needed the support of the temple masters and the elders. From then on, the current situation must have been destined. What's more, Di Beichen had been away for 3 years. During the 3 years when Di Beichen was away, the Great Elder and the 4 temple masters had always been in charge of Tiangang sect. They were used to having great power. Now that Di Beichen had returned and taken back all this power, their dissatisfaction could be imagined. It was not easy for Di Beichen to be able to regain the status of Tiangang sect's young sect master in such a short time. She could imagine that Di Beichen must have gone through a difficult power struggle when he returned to Tiangang sect from Fengbo country. Now, Di Beichen was indeed sitting firmly in the position of young sect master. But there were still many problems that had not been solved. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang understood how much Di Beichen had paid before to accompany her to cultivate outside. If Di Beichen had stayed in Tiangang sect after returning, the situation would have improved a lot. Speaking of it, she made Di Beichen worried, and also affected Di Beichen's power in Tiangang sect. Han Hongyi's eyes fell on Han Xiling. He wanted to stand up for Xiling, but now Di Beichen was pressuring him with the identity of the young sect master. He was helpless. Just as Han Hongyi was about to speak, Han Xiling's voice had already sounded. Di Dage, even if you like Bailey Hongzhuang, you can't be too biased. Han Xiling's face was cold, and her eyes flashed with jealousy and hatred. With Han Xiling's voice, everyone's eyes could not help but fall on Han Xiling. Since Han Xiling began to speak in the assembly hall, this was the first time she had spoken. Even if you want to marry Bailey Hongzhuang, at least you should wait until the sect master comes back. Before that, Bailey Hongzhuang can't stay in Tiangang sect. The rules of Tiangang sect are well known. If Bailey Hongzhuang wants to stay here, then she should pass the assessment competition. If it's just because of your relationship, then it will be talked about. Han Xiling glared at Bailey Hongzhuang in disgust. Things had come to this. Bailey Hongzhuang did not let her be happy. She would not let Bailey Hongzhuang be happy. I don't know if the hall masters and elders think that I am right. Chapter 1135. Hearing Han Xiling's words, Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing looked at each other and couldn't help but frown. Originally, this wasn't a big deal, but now that Han Xiling had brought it up in front of everyone and made it sound reasonable, they couldn't refute it. As everyone knew, Di Beichen was brought up by the sect leader. If Di Beichen didn't inform the sect leader about his marriage, it would be too unfilial. Most importantly, they didn't know when the sect leader would return. At the sect leader's level of cultivation, he had always been searching for opportunities to break through in various places in the Shengxian continent. Han Xiling's words were equivalent to delaying Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's wedding indefinitely. They didn't know when it would end. Although Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were already married in Fengbo country, Di Beichen was only a prince of Fengbo country at that time. His identity was completely different from his current one. The marriage of the Tiangang sect's young sect leader was definitely a joyous occasion. It couldn't be so obscure. As a result, Bailey Hongzhuang could only stay in the Tiangang sect and participate in the assessment competition. They all knew that although the assessment competition was just an assessment, it was full of risks. Many cultivators would fall in every assessment competition. The number of deaths and injuries had always been high. Once Bailey Hongzhuang fell in the assessment competition, Han Xiling's wishful thinking would be fulfilled. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang survived the assessment competition safely, if she didn't achieve the results required to enter the Tiangang sect, she wouldn't be able to marry in the future. Han Xiling's words were really calculated. causing Bailey Hongzhuang to fall into an extremely awkward situation. After hearing Han Shiling's words, Xiao Hongjin and Jiang Yi couldn't help but have a look of amazement in their eyes. They didn't expect Han Shiling to be so smart. This move was really amazing. Why didn't they think of this before? After Han Hongyi understood this point, he also understood Han Shiling's idea. However, at this moment he was in full agreement. Di Beichen's attitude was too much. Since Di Beichen didn't give them any face, they didn't need to be polite either. His granddaughter had always been the object of admiration for many young elites. Now she was actually being despised by Di Beichen. This was truly hateful. I don't know when the sect master will return. I'm afraid we need to discuss this matter properly, Qin Ai said. Seeing Qin Ai speak up for Di Beichen, Xiao Hongjin immediately said, I think what Han Shiling said is right. The sovereign's kindness to the little sect lord is as heavy as a mountain. How can the little sect lord get married when the sovereign has not returned? The wedding can wait for the sect master to return, but since Miss Bailey is already the young master's wife, there's no need for her to participate in this assessment, Gu Jingqing said. Jiang Yi shook his head. Miss Bailey wants to become the young sect master's wife of Tiangang sect, so she naturally has to prove her strength. If she can't even pass such a simple assessment, then the gap is too big. I believe Miss Bailey's strength can't be so weak. Palace Master Gu, don't tell me you don't have confidence in Miss Bailey? Jiang Yi's face was filled with a smug smile. Qin Ai and the others had forced him into such a situation, so he naturally wouldn't let them off easily. Chapter 1136. Di Beichen watched the discussion without saying a word. Xiao Hongjin and Jiang Yi had always been at odds with him. Now they were naturally trying to create problems for him. Now that he had returned to Tiangang sect, he should properly deal with these problems. Previously, he had already gotten hold of some information that could be used against them, but he had not had the time to deal with it. These guys thought that he could not do anything to them. Very soon, he would let Xiao Hongjin and the others see his methods. Master, this Han Shiling is really despicable. Xiao He gritted her teeth as she glared at Han Shiling. The more she looked at this woman, the more she hated her. Usually, I don't see Han Shiling being so smart. Now that she's been provoked, her brain is working faster. Xiao Bai's eyes flashed with displeasure. Han Shiling was always thinking of ways to create problems between Master and Di Beichen. She was really despicable. Fortunately, Master originally intended to participate in the assessment competition. This guy's wishful thinking is wrong. Baisher sighed. From the beginning, Master had never intended to enter Tiangang sect directly. Instead, she intended to enter legitimately after passing the assessment competition. Previously, they had thought that Master was being too serious. Now it seemed that Master's thinking was correct. If she could not enter Tiangang sect legitimately, these guys would keep bringing up these problems. Only with a legitimate reason would she not be afraid of any rumors. Han Shiling looked at Bailey Hongzhuang proudly. Her black eyes flashed with a proud and gratified light. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't tell me that you don't have the courage to participate in the assessment competition? Han Shiling was a little proud. When she thought of Bailey Hongzhuang's smug face in front of her, she felt really unhappy. She wanted to see if Bailey Hongzhuang could still maintain her previous calmness after she brought up this matter. If you don't participate in the assessment competition, we can't acknowledge your existence. Han Hongyi's voice followed. If she wanted to be the young master's wife of Tiangang Zong, she must use her strength to convince everyone. Han Hongyi didn't hide his dissatisfaction with Bailey Hongzhuang at all. All of a sudden, all the pressure and questions were directed at Bailey Hongzhuang. Xiao Hongjin chuckled as he looked at Di Beichen. Things had become so irreconcilable that it must have exceeded Di Beichen's expectations. However, when Xiao Hongjin raised his head, he did not see the slightest bit of panic on Di Beichen's face. On the contrary, the devilish smile on Di Beichen's lips quietly widened, revealing a dense evil aura and a sense of victory. Facing everyone's oppressive gazes, Bailey Hongzhuang also revealed a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Han Shiling with her deep almond-shaped eyes. She was not afraid at all. Miss Han, you're thinking too much. I've always been very confident in myself. As for you using such a despicable method to provoke me, it's useless. Because this time, I returned to Tiangang Zone with Di Beichen to participate in the assessment competition. With Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone present couldn't help but be stunned. This answer was obviously beyond their expectations. That's impossible, Han Shilling said quickly. Miss Han, this is just your opinion. Di Beichen has already arranged this matter. Not only me, but my friends will also be assessed here in Tiangang Zone. If you don't believe me, you can check it out. Chapter 1137. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze fell on Han Hongyi. Xiao Hongjin and Jiang Yi had always been Di Beichen's enemies, and she didn't feel anything about it. However, Han Hongyi's previous words really made her unhappy. Great Elder, you keep saying that I can't compare to Han Shilling. These words are also a kind of insult to me. Because of the problem with my dantian, there was a long period of time where I couldn't cultivate. Now my cultivation can't compare to Han Shilling. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang's tone changed. However, based on this point, how can you be sure that I can't compare to Han Shilling in the future? If my dantian didn't have a problem, it's still unknown who has a higher cultivation now. Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with a sharp and tenacious brilliance. Her voice was low and powerful, and she didn't hide her dissatisfaction at all. In her dictionary, as long as it was an enemy, there was no need to be polite when speaking. Everyone's eyes were filled with astonishment. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang walked into the meeting hall, she had always been modest and polite. Even in the face of Han Shilling's aggressiveness and Xiao Hongjin's trap, she was calm enough. Unexpectedly, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly attacked Han Hongyi at this moment. However, no one was surprised by this, because the Great Elder's previous words were completely targeted at Bailey Hongzhuang. It was normal for Bailey Hongzhuang to be dissatisfied. Han Hongyi also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. When Bailey Hongzhuang said the word insult, he also felt a lump in his throat. I will use my results to prove my strength. Great Elder, you don't have to be aggressive. When I pass the assessment and enter Tiangang sect to defeat Han Shilling, I hope that Great Elder can personally admit my strength. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were powerful and resonant. Her exquisite and beautiful face was dazzling, and her deep black eyes were filled with shock. Looking at the power that Bailey Hongzhuang exploded, even in the face of Han Hongyi, her aura didn't lose out in the slightest. Everyone was secretly surprised. If Bailey Hongzhuang was still the young miss of an ordinary dynasty's general's residence, she shouldn't have such power. At this moment, when Bailey Hongzhuang exploded, everyone felt that her aura was very similar to Di Beichen's. If they didn't already know Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, they wouldn't be able to connect her identity as the young miss of the general's residence. Bailey Hongzhuang, you think too highly of yourself. Han Shilling's eyes flickered with a venomous glint. She only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's overbearing aura was exceptionally dazzling, and she was extremely unhappy. Obviously, with Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, she should be despised here. But everyone seemed to have a better impression of Bailey Hongzhuang. This situation was completely different from what she had imagined. However, Bailey Hongzhuang completely ignored Han Shilling, and her gaze was directly locked onto Han Hongyi. She was too lazy to argue with Han Shilling. One day, she would use her own strength to shut up all these people who had opinions about her. Han Hongyi also fixed his gaze on Bailey Hongzhuang, and his originally dignified and weathered face was now extremely solemn. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were already a merciless rebuke to him. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's words were very reasonable, and on the contrary, he was forced to go to Liangshan. Chapter 1138. This was something that Han Hongyi had caused himself. Naturally, he had to deal with it himself. When Han Shilling saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had completely ignored her, she was furious. However, she could not be too presumptuous in front of so many elders. Di Beichen's gaze fell on Han Hongyi. First Elder, Hongzhuang is talking to you. At this point, Di Beichen's attitude towards Han Hongyi was extremely cold. In fact, he had already guessed that such a situation would occur before he returned. If Han Hongyi could differentiate between Tiangang sect and Han Shilling's feelings, that would naturally be for the best. However, It was obvious that Han Hongyi did not manage to do so. Han Hongyi glanced at Di Beichen, then looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. After Di Beichen's question, he had no choice but to answer. All right, as long as you can do it, I'll admit it. Han Hongyi's voice was low and hoarse. Since things had developed to this point, he could only choose to agree. All right, I'll wait. Bailey Hongzhuang was also not polite. Her delicate and beautiful face was filled with a faint light of self-confidence. Her outstanding appearance at the moment was even more beautiful than before. From the moment she said those words, she had already forced herself into a dead end. She had no chance to turn back. She had to achieve outstanding results in the assessment competition. There was not much time left for her. However, it was precisely because of the pressure that she had enough motivation. She understood that under such circumstances, even if she did not say those words, these people would still force her to this point. Since the result would be the same, she might as well say those words herself. This way, it would make everyone look up to her even more. From the moment she chose to be with Di Beichen, she had already thought about the pressure she would face in the future. Compared to the worst-case scenario she had imagined, the current situation was already pretty good. She would prove to everyone that she was qualified to stand by Di Beichen's side. Now I believe that everyone understands. I hope that no one will mention this matter again in the future. Di Beichen's voice was full of warning and seriousness, not allowing any refusal. When the meeting ended, the 4 palace masters and the elders walked out of the meeting hall one after another. Today, everyone finally saw Bailey Hongzhuang in person, and Bailey Hongzhuang's performance amazed them. Looks like young sect master's foresight isn't bad at all. Our previous worries were unnecessary. Gu Jingqing's face was full of smiles. He was obviously in a good mood. Initially, he was still worried that young sect master had made a wrong judgment and had found a huge trouble for himself. From the looks of it, not only was this Bailey Hongzhuang not weak, but she was also extremely outstanding. Qin Ai also smiled faintly. We watched young sect master grow up. We should have thought of this long ago. Usually, the women who came into contact with young sect master were all of high status. So young sect master's eyes were naturally very picky. I really like Bailey Hongzhuang, and her actions in the meeting hall today were very protective of young sect master. I think that young sect master would be very satisfied if he saw Bailey Hongzhuang. Gu Jingqing nodded slightly. Jiang Yi has already gone to receive his punishment. He must be in a terrible mood. Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing looked at each other and smiled. Previously, Di Beichen had been forced to leave Tiangang sect, so their power had also been suppressed to a certain extent. Chapter 1139. After everyone had left, Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and walked towards their residence. My dear wife, by saying such words today, you've cut off all paths of retreat. Di Beichen pursed his thin lips, and his deep eyes were filled with worry. He understood that Bailey Hongzhuang had said that for his sake. Since the Grand Elder and the 2 palace masters were being overbearing, Hongzhuang's words could be said to have made him proud. Hongzhuang wanted to use her own strength to tell everyone that his judgment was right. For this point, Di Beichen's heart was also very guilty. Logically speaking, he should be the one to solve these problems. He had always wanted to support Bailey Hongzhuang. However, with Tiangang sect's current situation, he was unable to suppress these voices of dissatisfaction for the time being. Because of this, Hongzhuang had been wronged, and he was extremely vexed. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head and saw the worry and guilt in Di Beichen's eyes. She tightened her grip on her hand, and a faint smile appeared on her beautiful face. You don't believe in my strength? Di Beichen shook his head. Of course I believe in you. To be able to pass the trial of the Blood Qi Tower, Hongzhuang's talent was needless to say. If Hongzhuang's Dantian had not been damaged, her cultivation level would definitely be higher than Orange Realm level 1. At this thought, Di Beichen could not help but think of the rainbow sacred pearl in Bailey Hongzhuang's Dantian. If that incident had not happened, Hongzhuang would have been the center of attention in the entire Xingxian continent. After all, Lan Qingyan of the Lan family was now the center of attention. Hongzhuang was the true pearl. Hearing Di Beichen's reply, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile widened. That's right, I will definitely pass the assessment. Just as they said, if I can't even pass this competition, then I really don't have the qualifications to be your wife. There was no such thing as fairness in this world. Although there were no conditions for love, there was a huge disparity in status between two people. If they wanted to be together, then they had to work hard to shorten the distance between them. Bewitching gazed at Bailey Hongzhuang. At this moment, her faint smile was like a pure lotus that had emerged from the mud, pure and beautiful. His originally heavy heart instantly calmed down a lot. Wife, thank you. After a long while, Bewitching only said this sentence. At a time like this, he didn't know what else to say. He wanted to thank Hongzhuang for her understanding, support, and confidence. Such a strong Hongzhuang always made him feel an indescribable heartache. Hongzhuang had gone from being a good-for-nothing, who couldn't cultivate, to where she was today. Furthermore, the mystery of her background was a heavy burden that pressed down on her. Now Hongzhuang had to bear this unnecessary pressure just to be with him. He only felt guilt and heartache in his heart. Bewitching, from the moment we were together, we were already one. Everything we do now is for our future. If there's a word of thanks, then it should be me thanking you. If Bewitching didn't want to accompany her, then he would have already dealt with the problems in the sect. She also had a certain understanding of Bewitching's methods. Although Bewitching was still young, he did things swiftly and decisively, never dragging his feet. What's more, he had a lot of means. Chapter 1140. Regardless of whether it was for Bewitching or for her parents, she had to participate in the assessment competition. Only by displaying her strength legitimately would she be able to walk down the path she wanted to take. It was just an assessment competition. Even if all the outstanding cultivators from all over the Shengxian continent were gathered, she was still full of confidence in herself. This was because she was also a genius cultivator herself. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Bewitching also held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand tightly. With a wife like this, what more could a husband ask for? In the past, he had never thought that there would be someone who would be so considerate and understanding of him. Now, he and Bailey Hongzhuang didn't seem to need to communicate many things. They already understood each other's thoughts. Wife, give me some time. I will solve all these problems in the sect. When you return from the assessment competition, the entire Tiangang sect will respectfully address you as young Madam Sect Master. Bewitching's beautiful face was filled with determination. This was his promise. His wife would definitely be the rightful one, and be the focus of everyone's attention. Today, he would make all the voices of opposition disappear completely. Because Bailey Hongzhuang was the treasure in his heart, he would do everything in his power to not let Hongzhuang suffer any grievances. And today, he would make those people pay the price for the situation that Hongzhuang was in. Bailey Hongzhuang's bright eyes moved, and her lips blossomed into a bright smile. Her originally moving face was now even more magnificent, causing Bewitching to be dazed. He was so glad that he was able to find Bailey Hongzhuang in the vast sea of people who warmed his heart. He only wanted to be together with her forever, as a pair of immortal companions. Seeing Bewitching staring at her in a daze, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but wave her white hand in front of Bewitching's eyes. She smiled and said, "What are you thinking about?" Bewitching grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand. "I'm thinking about how my wife is so beautiful." "You're so talkative." Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Bewitching, but the smile in her clear eyes widened. Bewitching held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand tightly and walked briskly towards the bedroom. This time, returning to Tiangang sect could be said to be the happiest he had ever been. He just wanted to let Bailey Hongzhuang know everything about his past. In a corner not far away, Han Shilling clenched his fists when he saw how intimate Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching were. Damn it! She had never seen this side of Big Brother D before. If she had not seen it with her own eyes, she would not have believed that this was really Bewitching. Moreover, she had never heard such words from Bewitching. Since she was young, she had never heard Bewitching say that anyone was beautiful. Now he was saying such sweet words to Bailey Hongzhuang. She really could not accept it. After Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang disappeared from sight, Han Shilling punched the wall fiercely. The anger in his heart could not be released in this way. If she did not believe it before, she had no choice but to believe it now. This was because Big Brother D clearly looked like he had fallen in love. My lady, you must not be impulsive. Tao Tsongrong's face was filled with worry. She did not enter the meeting hall, so she did not know what had happened in the meeting hall. She only knew that her lady was in an extremely bad mood after coming out. Chapter 1141. The news from the discussion hall was not spread, so the disciples of Tiangang Zong did not know who had the upper hand in the confrontation between Bailey Hongzhuang and Han Xiling. However, everyone could occasionally see Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching together. Just looking at this, everyone had already guessed that the person the young sect master really liked was Bailey Hongzhuang, not Han Xiling. Han Hongyi had not mentioned this matter since that day. Now that they had reached this point, they could only wait for Bailey Hongzhuang to participate in the assessment. Songlan School. After waiting for a while, Xia Jiqing and the others found that Bailey Hongzhuang still had not returned, and there was not much time left to participate in the assessment. They were also somewhat helpless. Gong Dage, Hongzhuang has not returned yet. Are you going to the dynasty to participate in the assessment first? Lu Qingyue's gentle and moving face showed a trace of worry. The entire special enrollment class was waiting for Hongzhuang to return. However, the time was getting closer and closer. If they did not leave, it was likely that it would be too late. The assessment was an opportunity that could not be missed for cultivators. Once missed, it would be too late to regret. Listening to Lu Qingyue's words, Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu looked at each other. They were also very helpless about this result. It is reasonable to say that Hongzhuang should not participate in the assessment. Did Hongzhuang really go directly to Tiangang Zone? Dong Fangyu frowned. This kind of opportunity, any cultivator with some strength would not miss it. With Bailey Hongzhuang's level of excellence, this kind of opportunity was naturally not to be missed. It was because they believed this that they had been waiting here. If Hongzhuang does not return today, we will leave at night. Cui Haoyan said. He wanted to wait for Bailey Hongzhuang, but it would take some time to get to the dynasty. If he continued to delay, then he would really miss it. It was reasonable to leave during the day, but he would rather rush at night and wait for Bailey Hongzhuang for a while. Listening to Cui Haoyan's words, everyone nodded. This was the only way. Bai Junyu walked to Xia Jiqing's side and sat down. His handsome face showed concern. Jiqing, if Hongzhuang does not return, you should go back to participate in the assessment first. If you have the opportunity to participate in the assessment, you may be able to see Hongzhuang in the arena. Xia Jiqing looked at Bai Junyu with a helpless and disappointed. Was Hongzhuang really not coming back? Hongzhuang had promised her that she would come back. Now the entire school, the academy's school was a school. The other cultivators had gone back to participate in the assessment. No matter how strong he was, he had to at least give it a try. If he passed, it would be a great opportunity. Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chu knew the thoughts of Gong Xiaoqing and the others, but they did not urge them. Since the inter-school competition, Bailey Hongzhuang's position in everyone's mind was very high. They believed that Gong Xiaoqing and the others had a sense of propriety and would not miss it. As time passed, everyone gradually gave up on this idea. Hongzhuang was definitely not coming back. It's getting late, let's get ready and leave. Chapter 1142. When Gong Xiaoqing's voice fell, Cui Haoyan and the others also got up. They could not continue to wait. Jiqing, let's go. Bai Junyu looked at Xia Jiqing, who was still standing on the side, and his eyes showed concern. Xia Jiqing looked helplessly in the direction of the school gate. She did not expect that Hongzhuang would not come back. She believed that as long as Hongzhuang wanted to participate in the assessment competition, then she would have no problem getting the qualifications. She must also work hard to get the qualifications. Once she participated in the assessment, she would not be able to see Hongzhuang for a long time. She did not know when the next time they would meet would be. Good. Xia Jiqing stood up. She believed that the sisterhood between her and Hongzhuang would not change, even if they did not see each other for a long time. However, just as everyone was preparing to leave the school, a black figure appeared in front of everyone. Miss Xia, Fortunately you are all still here. Heimu's handsome face showed a trace of emotion. He had rushed back as soon as possible, but the journey was very far. Even if he rode fast, it took a lot of time. Seeing the appearance of Heimu, Gong Xiaoqing, and the others were stunned for a moment. They did not know Heimu. Xia Jiqing also looked at Heimu in confusion. She did not understand why Heimu would say such a thing to her. You are? Xia Jiqing could not help but ask. Seeing that everyone did not know his identity, Heimu was not surprised. He immediately smiled and said, I am the shadow guard of the young master. The lady has now returned to Tiangang's sect with the young master. After knowing the identity of Heimu, everyone understood and their faces showed a smile. I said that Hong Zhuang went to Tiangang's sect. Cui Haoyan smiled faintly. No matter what, they were finally relieved after knowing Hong Zhuang's whereabouts. Hong Zhuang was the wife of Bewitching. Her identity was not on the same level as them. For them, the assessment competition was an opportunity for the carp to leap over the dragon gate. And Bailey Hongzhuang was already the future madam of the Tiangang sect. There was no need for her to participate in such an assessment competition. Everyone nodded. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't going to participate in the competition, she had sent Heimu to inform them. This proved that Hongzhuang still cared about them. Knowing this, everyone's mood improved a lot. Then let's pack up and set off. Xia Jiqing had a faint smile on her face. As long as she knew that Hongzhuang knew that they were still thinking about her, this was enough. As long as they could pass the assessment and become cultivators of Tiangang sect in the future, then they would be able to meet again. Heimu saw that before he finished speaking, Xia Jiqing and the others seemed to already know the result. He immediately smiled and continued to speak. Because there are some matters in the sect that young sect master needs to deal with, Madam accompanied young sect master back first. However, Madam asked me to bring you to the Heavenly Dipper sect. As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned and looked at Heimu incredulously. They only wondered if they had heard wrongly. What did you say? Zhang Yunfeng looked surprised, but there was some joy in her eyes. Tiangang sect can also take the assessment. Madam is taking the assessment in Tiangang sect, so I came to pick you up. In this way, as long as you get a place, everyone can participate in the assessment competition together. Heimu smiled. Chapter 1143. Heimu nodded. Of course it's true. The smile on Xia Jiqing's lips widened a little, and her pair of clear eyes flashed with a bright light. She knew that Hong Zhuang must be thinking of them. So, as long as we meet the conditions to participate in the assessment, we can participate in the assessment with Hong Zhuang. Zhang Yunfeng's eyes lit up. Originally, they had to go back to their respective dynasties to compete for the quota. Even if they finally entered the assessment, they may not be able to see each other. If they could participate in the assessment together, they would be a team. At the thought of this, everyone couldn't help but rejoice. It was really convenient. One must know that each dynasty only had a few quotas. If they got a quota, they would have to form a team with unknown cultivators to participate in the assessment. No matter what, it would take a lot of time just to get used to each other and form a team with complete strangers. If they met some cultivators who were difficult to get along with, the problem would be even bigger. Xia Jiqing smiled and nodded. Yes, this is really great. Dongfang Yu's gentle jade-like face also showed a happy smile. This should be the best news they had received. Although Gong Xiaoqing did not speak, his always cold face also softened a little. If everyone has no questions, let's leave early. There are not many days before the assessment. Heimu said. It would take some time to go from the Kanglin College to the Tiangang sect. Since it was the young master and his wife's order, he must do it well. When he thought of the situation when the young master returned to the Tiangang sect, he couldn't help but worry. He grew up with the young master since childhood. As the young master's shadow guard, he was the young master's confidant. He understood the situation of the Tiangang sect very well. Palace Master Xiao and Palace Master Jiang had been trying to find a way to find fault with the young master. This time, the young master took his wife back and would encounter a lot of problems. Although he was not the only shadow guard of the young master, He was very worried, and just wanted to go back quickly. Listening to Heimu's words, everyone no longer delayed and quickly said, "No problem, we will leave right away." Lu Qingyue stood beside Gong Xiaoqing. Even if she already knew that Gong Xiaoqing was going to leave, at this moment, she was still a little reluctant. At this moment, she even regretted not taking the path of a cultivator. If she also walked the path of a cultivator, then she would be able to accompany Big Brother Gong. Big Brother Gong, you have to work hard to get a spot. A beautiful smile blossomed on Lu Qinyue's beautiful face, but a pair of watery eyes flashed with a strong reluctance to part. Gong Xiaoqing looked at Lu Qinyue and nodded. I will be waiting for you at the college. If you finish participating in the exam, you must come back. Lu Qinyue's hands gradually closed. In addition to reluctance, there was also worry in her watery eyes. All along, her feelings had been very obvious, but Gong Dage had never expressed his feelings for her. She knew that Gong Dage only pitied her and did not like her. Even though she knew this was the case, she didn't want to give up. At the very least, there were no other women by Gong Dage's side. As long as she continued to persevere, Big Brother Gong might not necessarily dislike her in the future. Chapter 1144. Everyone looked at Lu Qinyue and Gong Xiaoqing's reluctant farewell, and took the lead to walk towards the school gate, giving the two some space to be alone. Lu Qinyue's feelings for Gong Xiaoqing could be said to be very clear to everyone, but unfortunately, Gong Xiaoqing didn't have enough response. Regarding this, they couldn't do anything about it. They could only hope that Gong Xiaoqing would be moved by Lu Qinyue in the future. If Gong Xiaoqing and Lu Qinyue were together, then they would be a perfect couple. Looking at Lu Qinyue's sparkling eyes, Gong Xiaoqing felt some heartache and said, I will be back. After receiving Gong Xiaoqing's affirmation, Lu Qinyue's face revealed a smile. At least, the tears in her eyes were accumulating more and more. Okay, I will always be here waiting for you to come back. Gong Xiaoqing nodded slightly. You also have to work hard. Lu Qinyue nodded again and again. She would definitely work hard to improve her alchemy skills. No matter which sect Gong Dage entered, she would also work hard to become that sect's alchemist. Take care. After speaking, Gong Xiaoqing glanced at Lu Qinyue, then turned around and walked towards Dongfang Yu and the others. Looking at Gong Xiaoqing's tall and straight back gradually disappearing, the tears in Lu Qinyue's eyes couldn't help but flow down. She believed that with Gong Dage's strength, he would definitely be able to successfully obtain a place to participate in the assessment competition. Once he left, it would be 2 years. 2 years was enough to change a lot of things. She was worried that when Gong Dage returned, there would be another person by his side. That would be a pain she couldn't bear. In fact, she always understood that Gong Dage only treated her as a younger sister. And she was even more clear that it wasn't that Gong Dage didn't like someone before, but it was impossible for the person he liked to be with him. It was just that he didn't say it out loud. From the time she knew Gong Dage, he was always so cold. He wouldn't take the initiative to speak to unfamiliar women, and he wouldn't show any other emotions other than indifference. However, there was only one woman who was an exception. It was because of this woman's appearance that she became nervous. She was worried that Gong Dage would leave her like this, cutting off all her hope. She used to think that she was an extremely outstanding woman, no matter if it was her appearance or ability. But when that woman appeared, she discovered that there was always someone better. That person was Bailey Hongzhuang. Perhaps other people did not notice Gong Dage's feelings, but she understood. Come to think of it, from the moment Gong Dage took the initiative to talk to Bailey Hongzhuang had a different place in Gong Dage's heart. Other than her, there was also Dongfang Yu who knew about this matter. Because they were too familiar with Big Brother Gong, they could understand. When Bewitching first appeared, Dongfang Yu lost his composure. But wasn't Big Brother Gong also hiding his emotions? It was only because Dongfang Yu's love was too obvious that Gong Dage had never expressed it. When Bailey Hongzhuang admitted that Bewitching was her husband, it was already an impossible relationship. She was glad that Bewitching had appeared. Otherwise she would have no hope at all. If it were any other woman, she would still have the confidence to compete with them. However, she did not have the slightest confidence in facing Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 1145. After seeing Gong Xiaoqing come, everyone's faces showed a smile, and then they followed He Mu to Tiangang sect. I've always heard about sects, but I've never seen one. I didn't expect to have the opportunity to see Tiangang sect now. Bai Junyu's eyes flashed with excitement. Tiangang sect was also one of the best sections. Ordinary people had no chance to enter Tiangang sect. Now they had the opportunity to see it, which was a great blessing. Yes, Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang are really good. My greatest wish in life is to become a sect disciple. Cui Haoyan laughed. All the cultivators in Shengxian continent hoped that they could become a sect disciple. Once they became a sect disciple, the possibility of promotion in the future would be greater. However, he had always yearned for it in his heart, but it felt very far away. Now that he could go to Tiangang sect, he naturally couldn't help but be happy. Zhang Yunfeng walked beside Xia Zhiqing and smiled. Zhiqing, you're right. Hongzhuang will not forget us. Xia Zhiqing smiled, her eyebrows showing confidence and joy. I knew that Hongzhuang would definitely participate in the assessment. She and Hongzhuang had always been very congenial. The two of them got along like sisters. She knew Hongzhuang's temperament very well. Hongzhuang had never thought that Bewitching would directly rise to a high position. On the contrary, she had always hoped that she had enough strength to stand beside Bewitching. It was because of this that she felt that Hongzhuang would definitely participate in the assessment. As long as she got a good result in the assessment, at least it would prove her strength. Perhaps others thought that Hongzhuang was lucky to be able to get the heart of Tiangang sect's young lord. However, she didn't think so, because Hongzhuang was good enough. This was not luck at all, but she was worth it. This point could be seen from Bewitching's attitude towards Hongzhuang. Zhang Yunfeng looked at Xia Zhiqing with some surprise. She did not understand why Xia Zhiqing was so confident in concluding this result. In fact, when she found out from He Mu that Hongzhuang was also going to take part in the assessment, she was a little confused. Logically speaking, with Hongzhuang's status, there was no need for her to attend. If he could get a good result in the competition, it would naturally be great. But if she didn't get good results, wouldn't it affect her prestige in Tiangang sect? Under such circumstances, not participating was the wisest choice. Although we can participate in the examination together, whether or not we can obtain the qualifications to participate in the examination competition still depends on ourselves. Gong Xiaoqing looked at everyone's happy faces and could not help but say, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching can let them take the assessment together in Tiangang sect, which is an excellent thing. Presumably, this matter could not be concealed from the people of Tiangang sect. If their performance was too bad, it would bring shame to Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang. Participating in the assessment did not mean that they would definitely be qualified to participate. It was better not to be happy too early. Listening to Gong Xiaoqing's words, everyone also restrained their smiles. Previously, they were completely immersed in joy and did not think about other problems. Now that Gong Xiaoqing said this, they also understood a lot of problems. Chapter 1146. As Dongfengyu's voice fell, everyone's face revealed a serious expression. The cultivators of Tiangang sect were all powerful people. In terms of cultivation, they naturally couldn't compare. However, as long as they showed good potential, it would be fine. After all, the cultivators of Tiangang sect had also walked step by step from the current them. They were even more aware of the existence of Han Xiling in Tiangang sect. Just based on Han Xiling's high and mighty performance in Luoyun mountain range, they were afraid that they would inevitably be noticed by Han Xiling if they went to Tiangang sect. No matter what, they couldn't become Han Xiling's weakness to attack Hongzhuang. Yes, whether it's for ourselves or for Hongzhuang and Bewitching, we have to work hard. Cui Haoyan said in a deep voice. After He Mu, who was walking at the front, heard the conversation between Gong Xiaoqing and the others, his face also revealed a joyful smile. Madam's group of friends were truly good friends. They put themselves in Madam's and young sect master's shoes. Tiangang sect, young sect master's bedroom. Bewitching's bedroom was very large. Naturally, there was more than one room. These days, Bailey Hongzhuang had been living in Bewitching's bedroom. Bailey Hongzhuang stood in front of Bewitching's desk and directly opened the drawer. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, Bewitching couldn't help but be surprised for a moment. He immediately wanted to stop Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's actions were faster. She immediately took out the portrait from the drawer. With a playful smile on her sparkling jade-like face, Bailey Hongzhuang sized up Bewitching and said, "Tell me honestly, when did you draw this portrait?" Bewitching's handsome eyes slightly narrowed. "How did you know?" Seeing that Bewitching was trying to avoid the topic, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't mind. She smiled and said, "That day, I asked Han Shilling to bring me to your chamber, so we came to the study." Hearing this, Bewitching felt helpless. He had not thought of this. "All right, now it's your turn to answer my question." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled tenderly as she gazed at Bewitching. Her bright and beautiful eyes seemed to sparkle with countless little stars, illuminating Bewitching's heart. Looking at the beautiful face in front of him, Bewitching's eyes became even gentler. He held Bailey Hongzhuang's naughty little hands with both of his hands. His handsome eyes gazed at Bailey Hongzhuang's starry eyes. Bewitching's eyes were full of affectionate light. "I drew it when I missed you." In the past, he would never miss a person so much. But after parting with Bailey Hongzhuang, he knew the feeling of missing someone. One day apart felt like 3 years. When they parted, he really understood the meaning of this sentence. So he began to draw when he had free time. His painting skills were not good, but his performance was excellent when he drew Hongzhuang. Because Hongzhuang's every frown and smile had long been imprinted in his heart. Seeing Bewitching suddenly gazing at her so affectionately, Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned for a moment. She naturally knew Bewitching's affectionate feelings. It was just that she happened to come to the study today, so she wanted to tease him. At this moment, when she heard Bewitching's affectionate words, she was at a loss. Bewitching looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's gradually blushing face. The smile in his eyes gradually deepened, and the corners of his lips curled into a playful smile. Seeing Bewitching's fox-like smile, Bailey Hongzhuang finally reacted. "You're teasing me on purpose." Chapter 1147. Looking at Bewitching, who was smiling like a fox, Bailey Hongzhuang glared at him and said, "I'm going back to cultivate." Now that the assessment competition was getting closer and closer, she wanted to increase her strength as much as she could, so that she could protect herself. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was about to leave, he said, "Wife, wait." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bewitching. She saw Bewitching walking up to her and holding her small hand. "Wife, I'll take you to a place." As he spoke, Bewitching had already started walking. Bailey Hongzhuang followed Bewitching to the back of the bedroom. "Where are you taking me?" Her ink-black phoenix eyes were filled with curiosity and doubt. She didn't know what was so special about Bewitching's bedroom. "I'm taking you to a good place to cultivate." Bewitching chuckled. Under Bewitching's lead, Bailey Hongzhuang followed Bewitching to a house. Bewitching pushed open the door and walked in with Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the house in front of her and found that there was nothing special about it. It was just an ordinary house. Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face was filled with doubt. She didn't understand what was so special about this place. "Master, there's an unusual fluctuation underground." Xiao Hei's voice rang out. She looked at the ground strangely. The elemental energy here seemed to be much denser than in other places. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look underground. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai's mental strength was very sensitive. Therefore, even if something was hidden, they would be able to discover it. Underground. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bewitching. She didn't expect Bewitching's bedroom to be so special. Bewitching nodded slightly. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai weren't ordinary contracted beasts. They were much more sensitive and intelligent than ordinary contracted beasts. "That's right." Bewitching's beautiful face had a faint smile. "I usually cultivate here." Then, Bewitching directly walked forward and chose a book from the many books on the bookshelf. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that a tunnel had quietly appeared on the ground in the middle of the room. "It's here." Bewitching smiled. As the tunnel opened, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately felt the abundant elemental energy in the tunnel. It made her eyes light up. Bewitching took the lead and walked into the tunnel. Bailey Hongzhuang followed closely behind. This tunnel led straight to the underground and was quite long. As soon as they walked into the tunnel, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that the cells in her body became active and greedily absorbed the surrounding elemental energy. Tiangang sect always had an elemental energy gathering formation. Under the effect of this elemental energy gathering formation, the elemental energy in Tiangang sect was more than twice as rich as the outside world. This meant that the cultivation speed in Tiangang sect would be more than twice as fast as the cultivation speed in the outside world. It was precisely because the sect had such an effect that there would be so many cultivators racking their brains to enter the sect. Once they enjoyed the cultivation resources of the sect, the speed of cultivation would be much faster. There would also be more possibilities for them to reach heights in their lifetime. However, Bailey Hongzhuang clearly felt that the elemental energy in this tunnel was 4 times more than the outside world. Chapter 1148. Not long after, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching arrived underground. Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that this underground was a very simple stone room. However, although a sparrow was small, it was complete. Everything that was needed was available in this stone room. Just by looking at the praying mat used for meditation, it could be seen that Bewitching had been cultivating here for quite some time. When Tiangang sect was first established, I discovered that there was a natural elemental energy gathering array here. The effect of gathering elemental energy is extremely powerful. Master built my palace here to allow me to cultivate better. Bewitching's eyes flashed with a faint smile. Master had always treated him extremely well. For him to be able to raise his cultivation at such a young age, it was inseparable from this stone room. Thinking about it, Master also wanted to stabilize his position as the young sect master. Cultivating here, the speed of improvement would be much faster than other places. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed Bewitching's gaze and understood the importance of the sect master in Bewitching's heart. Speaking of which, the sect master was really good to Bewitching. It was as if he treated Bewitching as his own grandson. She only hoped that the sect master could break through and return as soon as possible. She also wanted to see this master that Bewitching was indebted to. Bewitching quickly recovered his emotions. His deep gaze landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. "Wife, you can cultivate here." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Okay. Cultivating here really had the effect of half the effort. She only hoped that her strength would be more stable. "Wife, I will be going to the Juyun sect to discuss the assessment in the next few days. I will be back in a few days. You can cultivate here in peace for the next few days. When I return, I will naturally look for you. Even if those people want to find trouble with you, they won't know where you are. It will save some trouble. Lady Xia and the rest still need a few days to reach the Tiangang sect. I believe they will be back around the same time as me." His black eyes were filled with concern and pampering. If it wasn't for the assessment, he wanted to bring Hongzhuang to the Juyun sect. However, time was of the essence now. Raising his cultivation was the most important thing. Fortunately, no one else knew about this stone room other than him and his master. Hongzhuang wouldn't have any problems cultivating here. Seeing that Bewitching was so considerate for her, Bailey Hongzhuang was touched. "Don't worry, I will be fine here." Bewitching had just returned to Tiangang zone. Naturally, there were many things that needed to be dealt with. She could not delay Bewitching's time. Thinking about it, Bewitching had been accompanying her outside during this time, which had caused a lot of dissatisfaction. She could not let such dissatisfaction grow. After all, she didn't want to end up with the title of femme fatale. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's understanding expression, the gentleness in Bewitching's eyes deepened. "I will be back soon." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "Okay." After Bewitching left, Bailey Hongzhuang sat down on the stone bed. This place faintly emitted Bewitching's unique fragrance. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Baishir jumped down from Bailey Hongzhuang's body. The 3 beasts' faces were filled with excitement. This is really a good place to cultivate. Xiao He ran around the stone room. The stone room wasn't big, but it was arranged very well. Chapter 1149. I was wondering why the concentration of elemental energy in Tiangang sect was higher than that of other sections. It turns out that there is a natural elemental energy gathering array here. Bewitching's palace is located at the spring of this elemental energy gathering array, so the elemental energy is the densest here. Xiaobai could not help but sigh. The sect leader is really good to Bewitching, giving such a good location to Bewitching. Logically speaking, such a treasured place should be the sect leader's palace, but the sect leader gave it to Bewitching as his palace. Just this action alone was more than 1,000 words. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood. There is a barrier set up here. I think the other people in Tiangang sect don't know that there is such a good place to cultivate. This barrier is set up very discreetly, completely isolating the elemental energy fluctuations. If it weren't for Xiaobai and my spiritual power being very sensitive, we wouldn't have discovered it in a short time, Xiao He said. This is really a good place to cultivate. Baisher lay lazily on the stone bed. Although the stone bed was very hard, the brocade and bedding made it very soft. It only felt that this place was really too comfortable. Even when it breathed, the rich elemental energy would enter its body. Looking at Baisher's lazy appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. This little guy was too cute. No matter what it did, it was indescribably cute. Bewitching must be worried that Han Xiling will come and find trouble with you. However, in my opinion, after the incident in the meeting hall, Han Xiling will not continue to be so unappreciative, Xiao He said. Xiaobai shook her head. That may not be so. Han Xiling is not a good person at first glance. In order to get what she wants, she will do anything. I don't think she will give up so easily. According to her understanding, some cultivators who thought highly of themselves would be especially paranoid when they lost something. Han Xiling had lived in Tiangang sect since she was young, and was a proud daughter in everyone's eyes. She had probably never suffered such a big setback. Now that Bewitching had rejected her in front of everyone, and even openly brought her master to Tiangang sect, it was no different from giving her a hard slap. Just this resentment, Han Xiling would not swallow it so easily. Hearing Xiaobai's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a cold light. She also had a certain understanding of Han Xiling's character. But things had already come to this. No matter how unwilling Han Xiling was, no use was. It was useless no matter how unwilling Han Xiling was unwilling. Forget it. I just need to focus on cultivating now. I don't need to think about these problems. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. Her beautiful face revealed an elegant smile. Since she was here, she naturally would not miss such a good opportunity to cultivate. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes and began cultivating. As Bailey Hongzhuang circulated the demon summoning scripture, the abundant Yuan Li in the surroundings flowed into Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's breathing, it strengthened the Yuan Li in her dantian. Bewitching's departure from Tiangang sect was not a secret. Han Xiling also received the news immediately. Miss, young sect master has already left the sect for Juyin sect. Chapter 1150. Hearing Tao Tsongrong's words, Han Xiling's eyes narrowed. Did Bailey Hongzhuang go with Big Brother D? His bright black eyes flickered with a sinister and cold light. Han Xiling gradually clenched his fists. If Big Brother D brought Bailey Hongzhuang to Juyin sect. No, I saw young sect master leave by himself. Tao Tsongrong replied. Following Tao Tsongrong's words, Han Xiling's tightly clenched fists finally relaxed. Fortunately, Big Brother D did not bring Bailey Hongzhuang with him. When she thought of Big Brother D and Bailey Hongzhuang being intimate and loving that day, her heart felt stifled. It was so stifling that she could not breathe. Ever since that day at the discussion hall, she had never left her residence, because she could not face the gazes of the sect disciples. All along, she had been a high and mighty existence. Now, she was afraid that everyone was mocking her in their hearts. This huge difference made her unwilling to go out and meet people. It was simply too embarrassing. And all of this was because of Bailey Hongzhuang. Han Shiling's lips curled into a cold smile. Big Brother D actually did not bring Bailey Hongzhuang with him to Juyin sect. It seems that Big Brother D does not want to make Bailey Hongzhuang public. Tao Tsongrong nodded repeatedly. Of course. I don't know what young sect master is thinking. Actually, Bailey Hongzhuang is simply not presentable. Young sect master is heading to Juyin sect this time. All the cultivators in Shengxian continent are gathered there. If everyone knew that young sect master had chosen Bailey Hongzhuang, they would definitely mock young sect master. Hearing Tao Tsongrong's words, the smile on Han Shiling's face widened. That's right. No matter what, she was much more outstanding than Bailey Hongzhuang. All these years, almost everyone thought that she and Big Brother D were a couple. Now that it was Bailey Hongzhuang who could not compare to her in any way, Big Brother D naturally would not bring Bailey Hongzhuang with him. Speaking of which, Bailey Hongzhuang still thought too highly of herself. In that case, Bailey Hongzhuang is now in Big Brother D's palace? Han Shiling's eyes narrowed. She clearly remembered Bailey Hongzhuang's high and mighty appearance in the discussion hall. She hated that she could not kill Bailey Hongzhuang at the thought of this. She could not wait to kill Bailey Hongzhuang. Big Brother D was. She could not let Bailey Hongzhuang continue being. Tao Tsongrong nodded her head. It should be. But I heard that young sect master had instructed that no one is allowed to go near his bedroom during this period. As soon as these words came out, Han Shiling's eyes deepened a bit. D-Dage's words are for me to hear? He's so protective of Bailey Hongzhuang. Tao Tsongrong was a little worried when she saw Han Shiling gnashing her teeth. Miss, don't be angry. Young sect master has only been deceived by Bailey Hongzhuang for a short period of time. Let's go and take a look. Han Shiling's face was full of stubbornness. She did not care about what Bewitching said. Even if she really went, she did not believe that Big Brother D could do anything to her. But Miss, young sect master has said that no one is allowed to go. Tao Tsongrong was in a difficult position. So what? Han Shiling sneered. Would Big Brother D kill me for Bailey Hongzhuang? Chapter 1151. However, Han Shiling ignored Tao Tsongrong's dissuasion and was very determined. Are you going or not? Seeing that Han Shiling was angry, Tao Tsongrong did not dare to say anything more and said, I'll go wherever Miss goes. Then let's go. Her voice fell, and Han Shiling had already walked out of the house. Fortunately, her residence was at the back of Tiangang sect, and there were not many cultivators who came here usually. As for Bewitching's bedroom, there were even fewer cultivators who appeared near Bewitching's bedroom. As long as she was careful, she would be able to avoid many cultivators along the way, and might not be discovered at all. Along the way, Tao Tsongrong walked in front, and helped Han Shiling to keep an eye on the surrounding situation. Speaking of which, they were really lucky along the way. However, they did not know that not far away, the secret guards sent by Bewitching to protect Bailey Hongzhuang had already seen everything. Hey Ming, should we stop them? No need. Young sect master only asked us to keep an eye on the surrounding movements. Even if Han Shiling goes over, he won't be able to find Madam. Don't worry. Compared to Han Shiling, Bewitching was more worried that the two palace masters would harm Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, these two people had stayed in Tiangang sect for so long, and their abilities could not be underestimated. Han Shiling walked all the way to Bewitching's bedroom without any obstructions. His originally nervous little face revealed a proud expression the moment he arrived. It turned out that Big Brother D had only said that, and did not say anything else. Bailey Hongzhuang, Han Shiling called out, but found that no one answered at all. Seeing this, Han Shiling could not help but frown, and immediately turned to Tao Tsongrong and said, Go and look for her. Tao Tsongrong quickly nodded. Okay, I'll go look for her now. As Tao Tsongrong went to look for Bailey Hongzhuang, Han Shiling also went in. Bailey Hongzhuang actually dared to ignore her. Did this woman really think that she was great now? Tao Tsongrong quickly opened the counter, but there was no sign of Bailey Hongzhuang in the room. At the same time, Han Shiling's situation was the same. Miss, there's no trace of Bailey Hongzhuang in the room. Tao Tsongrong looked puzzled. Han Shilling also frowned. Bailey Hongzhuang must know that she has no one to rely on after Brother D left, so she's deliberately avoiding me. However, it's not that easy for her to hide from me. Han Shilling looked at Tao Tsongrong again and said, "Continue the search. We must find Bailey Hongzhuang." As long as Bailey Hongzhuang was in this room, she would definitely find her. The three beasts also noticed the movements above. The design of this stone room was very strange. It was impossible to detect the existence of this stone room from upstairs. But from this stone room, one could clearly understand the movements above. That Han Shilling really refuses to give up. Di Beichen just left, and she immediately came looking for him. What a weirdo. Xiao He could not hide the disgust in her eyes. Now that Han Shilling's true colors had been exposed, everything she had done was disgusting. It's all right. Let her search upstairs. Anyway, she won't be able to find anything, Bailey Hongzhuang said calmly. Han Shilling must be flustered and exasperated now, and only wanted to find her to vent her anger. If Han Shilling could not find her, she would probably be even angrier. Chapter 1152. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the three beasties covered their mouths and laughed. The Han Shilling now was really like a headless fly, running around aimlessly. Where was her high and mighty appearance from before? Speaking of which, the image of Han Shilling that everyone used to think was lofty, cold, and elegant was completely fake. Now this crazy woman Han Shilling was the real her. Bailey Hongzhuang was peacefully cultivating in the stone room. A trace of elemental energy covered her ears, covering all the noises, and leaving Han Shilling to go crazy. In reality, everything was just as Bailey Hongzhuang had predicted. Han Shilling and Tao Tsongrong kept running around Di Beichen's bedroom, and Han Shilling was sure that Bailey Hongzhuang must be hiding, so she didn't give up on searching. If someone were to stand on the roof of Di Beichen's bedroom, they would find Han Shilling and Tao Tsongrong running around like idiots. It was really funny. Han Shilling stubbornly searched for a long time, but realized that Bailey Hongzhuang was nowhere to be seen. She couldn't help but feel flustered and exasperated. "Miss, there's no sign of Bailey Hongzhuang." Tao Tsongrong put her hands on her hips, panting heavily. Han Shilling's face was gloomy as a storm of anger swept through her eyes. "Are you sure that Big Brother D left alone?" She had been running around in this bedroom for so long, but she didn't see any trace of Bailey Hongzhuang. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang was hiding from her, there should be some movement. However, after searching for so long, she felt that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't here at all. Looking at Han Shilling's slightly threatening gaze, Tao Tsongrong replied nervously, "I saw young sect master leaving alone with my own eyes, and I didn't see Bailey Hongzhuang by his side. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang walked in front of you, so you didn't notice?" Han Shilling frowned. She couldn't think of any other possibilities. After all, if Bailey Hongzhuang was really in Tiangang's sect, then it was impossible to go anywhere else except here. Tao Tsongrong was also puzzled and could only say, "Maybe." Looking at Tao Tsongrong's ambiguous look, Han Shilling was also furious. "Let's go back." Time passed very quickly. Bailey Hongzhuang was quietly cultivating in the stone room, while the three beasties were obediently cultivating on the other side. As they were about to take part in the assessment competition, they naturally had to take part together with their mistress. Their abilities could be raised slightly, and by then, they would be able to help their mistress a little. Bailey Hongzhuang also felt that this was an extremely good opportunity for cultivation, as it greedily absorbed the surrounding elemental energy. The stone room was completely silent, and other than the slight breathing sound, there wasn't any other sound. However, on this night, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was cultivating, suddenly, there was a movement from the ground. Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that the mechanism controlling this passageway had been opened by someone, and a light footstep was heard from above. Hearing this slight movement, Bailey Hongzhuang and the three beasties opened their eyes, and the elemental energy in their bodies surged as they stared intently above. Just by hearing these footsteps, they were able to determine that the person wasn't Di Beichen. Chapter 1153. Bailey Hongzhuang and the three beasties were ready to attack. Compared to Han Shilling, They believed that another cultivator had arrived. Once this happened, the other party must be an enemy. The stone chamber was completely silent. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze was fixed on the top of the passageway. She did not know if the person who had arrived was the palace master or an elder. Not long after, a figure appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and the three beasties. However, after seeing this figure, Bailey Hongzhuang and the three beasties were puzzled. This was because they had never seen this person before. He was neither the palace master nor an elder of the Tiangang sect. The person who had arrived was around 50 years old. His face, which had experienced the vicissitudes of life, was benevolent and full of righteousness. He was clearly different from the bad guy that Bailey Hongzhuang had imagined. "Master, this old fellow is very powerful." Xiao Hei's voice rang out as a reminder. Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with a dignified light. Her heart was also clear. She knew that she had not sensed the slightest bit of elemental energy from the other party's body. Usually there were only two possibilities in this situation. The first was that the other party was an ordinary person who had never cultivated. The second was that the other party was extremely powerful and had perfectly concealed his aura. Of these two possibilities, Bailey Hongzhuang naturally did not believe that it was the first one. This was because there were no ordinary people in the Tiangang sect. When the old man saw Bailey Hongzhuang, he was shocked. His bright eyes were filled with astonishment. He stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang, as if he had seen something inconceivable. "Who are you?" The old man took a step forward and grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders with both hands. His gaze was as sharp as an eagle's, and could not be resisted. The old man's sudden action was obviously beyond Bailey Hongzhuang's expectations. Her brows furrowed. She wanted to break free from the old man's grip, but the old man's strength was too great. She couldn't break free. Most importantly, she did not see any killing intent in the old man's eyes. On the contrary, it was an extremely complicated emotion that she could not understand. After knowing that the old man did not intend to kill her, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but ask, "I'm Bailey Hongzhuang. Who are you?" Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, the old man finally understood. He immediately let go of Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, but his eyes were filled with disappointment. "So you are Bailey Hongzhuang?" The old man quickly recovered from his previous state. His weathered face returned to its original benevolence and gentleness. "Bewitching, this brat, even told you the secret of the stone room. It seems like he is sincere." Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned for a moment when she heard the old man's words, but she quickly understood what he meant. Her deep phoenix-like eyes were filled with astonishment and surprise. "You're the sect master?" She clearly saw the old man's doting gaze when he talked about Bewitching. She then recalled that Bewitching had previously said that only he and the sect master knew about this stone room. In this way, the identity of the old man in front of him was already obvious. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had immediately guessed his identity, Situ Yin smiled faintly. "You're smart." After receiving Situ Yan's affirmation, Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes were filled with joy. She had always wanted to meet Situ Yan, who had raised Bewitching. She never thought that she would be able to meet him in person so soon. "Greetings, senior." Chapter 1154. "You're from Fengbo country?" Situ sized up Bailey Hongzhuang. His deep eyes flickered with a complicated light. "That's right." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. There was some worry in her eyes. In fact, she didn't know if Situ cared about her background. She didn't care about what others said. But Situ treated Bewitching with great kindness. If Situ didn't like her, then she couldn't ignore it. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, Situ's eyes lit up. "I heard that Bewitching's wife is from a small dynasty, but I don't know which dynasty it is. So, you two met in Fengbo country?" Bailey Hongzhuang sized up Situ's expression. After seeing that Situ didn't show any displeasure towards her, her tense heart relaxed a little. "Bewitching became the prince of Fengbo country. I'm the young miss of the general's residence. We just happen to know each other." "I see." Situ smiled faintly. There was some emotion in his deep eyes. "You look like an old friend of mine." Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. She immediately understood why Situ had such an expression when he first saw her. I look like an old friend of seniors? Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes were filled with doubt. Bailey Hongzhuang's mind was constantly thinking. It was reasonable to say that her mother was also a member of the sect, so she might know Si Tuyen. However, from Si Tuyen's expression, this old friend should be around the same age as Si Tuyen. She shouldn't be her mother. Si Tuyen smiled faintly and waved his hand. It's just that we look alike. Seeing that Si Tuyen didn't want to continue this topic, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't insist. There were indeed many people who looked alike in this world. Beichen went to the Juyin sect. Since he arranged for you to stay here, you should properly cultivate here for the next few days. I've already understood what happened in the conference hall. You performed very well, and I believe in Beichen's judgment. Si Tuyen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with appreciation and approval. Although today was the first time he had seen Bailey Hongzhuang, from the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang had insisted on participating in the assessment, he could see that this little girl was also proud and unyielding. Today, no matter if it was her appearance, temperament, or character, they were all impeccable. On the contrary, the first time he saw Bailey Hongzhuang, he felt a sense of closeness and fondness. This feeling was the love an elder had for a junior. It was very strange, but it did exist. However, today was his first time meeting Bailey Hongzhuang, so he couldn't be too obvious. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if he scared Bailey Hongzhuang. As soon as he finished speaking, Si Tuyen smiled and walked up the passageway. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Si Tuyen's back as he left, and a smile appeared on her pretty face. Master, this sect leader seems to like you very much. Xiao He went to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Its pair of big eyes looked around excitedly. I also quite like this sect leader. He's much better than those annoying old guys. Xiao Bai was also very happy. It also knew that its master had always been very worried about Si Tuyen's opinion of her. Now Si Tuyen's attitude was obviously very positive about its master. This was great news. Chapter 1155. His delicate and perfect face was filled with a happy and charming smile, and his pair of narrow and bright phoenix eyes had curved into a crescent moon. Although Si Tuyen did not say much, Bailey Hongzhuang understood that Si Tuyen did not have any dissatisfaction because of his identity. On the contrary, he had an appreciative attitude towards her. With Si Tuyen's identity, there was no need to say any perfunctory words. Since he said so, it proved that he really appreciated her. She always thought that she did not know when she would be able to see Si Tuyen. She did not expect to see him so early, and under such circumstances. Fortunately, this was not bad. I didn't expect the sovereign to suddenly come back. In this way, the burden on Beichen will be reduced a lot. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes narrowed slightly. Si Tuyen's position in Tiangang sect was needless to say. He had absolute authority. Previously, Di Beichen could not stand because of his physique. If it were not for Si Tuyen not being here, Di Beichen would not be forced to go to Fengbo country. Now that Si Tuyen was back, Di Beichen's position would be unshakable. Xiao Hongjin and Jiang Yi really had no chance at this time. When the sovereign comes back, those guys will definitely have to stand aside, Xiao He said with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with a smile. If Di Beichen knew that Si Tuyen was back, he would be very happy. Originally, she had some worries about the situation of Tiangang sect, but now it seemed that these worries were unnecessary. All the situations would be changed from the moment Si Tuyen came back. However, now she just needed to cultivate well. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang once again entered the state of cultivation. When Xia Jiqing and the others followed He Mu to Tiangang sect, they really saw the means of the big sections. Just looking at the array made them amazed. If He Mu didn't bring them in, they wouldn't have thought that the famous Tiangang sect was sitting here. Xia Jiqing's gaze fell on the white buildings on the high mountain, and her pretty face was full of amazement. That's Tiangang sect. It's really magnificent. Bai Junyu also sighed as he looked at the building. He had already thought about how amazing this Tiangang sect was. But today, the real situation was even bigger and more spectacular than he imagined. If we can become disciples of the Tiangang sect in the future, that would be great. Dongfang Yu's gentle jade-like face rippled with a faint smile. Such a large sect was truly a holy land in the hearts of all cultivators. As soon as he thought that Bewitching was the young lord of Tiangang sect, he understood how big the gap between him and Bewitching was. It was a gap that he was destined to be unable to cross since birth. Gong Xiaoqing did not say a word, but his deep eyes quietly changed. This kind of shock could only be understood when one experienced it personally. "Who are you?" After seeing He Mu and the others, the guards revealed their figures, and their eyes fell on Xia Jiqing and the others behind He Mu. When Xia Jiqing and the others saw the sudden appearance of the two cultivators, they were also surprised. If the two had not taken the initiative to reveal themselves, they would not have known that there were two cultivators nearby. Chapter 1156. I brought them to participate in the assessment under the order of the young sect master. He Mu said. Listening to He Mu's answer, the two disciples looked at each other. They both knew that He Mu was the confidant of the young sect master. Since He Mu said so, it should not be wrong. The two immediately nodded, and their figures swept away, disappearing from the sight of Xia Jiqing and others. Seeing this, Xia Jiqing and others had a look of amazement on their faces. This is the means of the sect, it's really amazing. Listening to everyone's emotions, He Mu smiled and said, "After you participate in the assessment, you will have such strength." Xia Jiqing and others looked at each other, and there was a look of expectation in their eyes. They only hoped that one day they could become so strong. Not long after, everyone walked to Tiangang sect. The cultivators of Tiangang sect looked at the sudden appearance of Xia Jiqing and others, and there was a look of surprise in their eyes. What are these people doing in Tiangang sect? Aren't their cultivations a little too weak? I don't know. Our Tiangang sect is not a place where anyone can casually enter. Isn't the person leading the way at the front the young sect master's shadow guard He Mu? Is this the young sect master's intention? Everyone kept looking at Xia Jiqing and others. With their cultivation, they could see the cultivation of Xia Jiqing and others at a glance. With this kind of cultivation, it was impossible to even set foot in Tiangang sect. They did not understand why this group of people would appear here. It was really strange. Listening to the remarks of the surrounding cultivators, everyone's face was a bit ugly. After all, the surrounding cultivators were stronger than them, and they could feel the contempt of these cultivators for them. You don't have to care about this. You are the friends of the young sect master and madam. They will soon shut up. He Mu explained. The cultivators in the special enrollment class were all friends of madam, so he naturally could not make them feel unhappy. Hearing this, Xia Jiqing waved her hand indifferently. It's okay, we don't care at all. Where there were people there would be right and wrong. If it were not because they knew Hong Zhuang and Bewitching, they would not be here at all. If they were in his shoes, they would probably have the same thoughts if they saw such a group of unfamiliar cultivators. Since they were friends of Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang, they couldn't embarrass Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang. Dongfang knew, and the others nodded in agreement. That's right. Everyone was just talking about it out of curiosity. Seeing that Dongfang Yu and the others were very understanding, He Mu also breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "Young sect master and madam should be in the palace. I'll take you there." As He Mu's voice fell, Xia Jiqing's eyes lit up. She was finally going to see Hong Zhuang. He wondered how Hong Zhuang was doing after not seeing her for a while. The scope of Tiangang sect was very large. Even though they were already in Tiangang sect, it still took a while for everyone to walk to Bewitching's palace. Miss, He Mu brought a group of unfamiliar cultivators to the young sect master's palace. Tao Tsongrong hurried over to report to Han Xiling after seeing He Mu's group pass by their residence. Listening to Tao Tsongrong's words, Han Xiling couldn't help but be startled, her eyebrows slightly wrinkled. A group of strangers? Chapter 1157. Han Xiling raised her eyebrows slightly, and her lips curled into a sneer. Let's go take a look. He Mu had always been working for Big Brother D, but now he was leading a group of strange cultivators to Big Brother D's palace. Han Xiling just thought for a moment, and she was sure that these cultivators must be Bailey Hongzhuang's friends. After all, Big Brother D did not have many friends, and those friends were all prominent people. It was absolutely impossible for them to be strangers, let alone a group of them. Yes, Tao Tsongrong responded. As they got closer and closer to Bewitching's palace, everyone also relaxed a little. Originally, they were being looked at by the cultivators of Tiangang sect, and they were still a little nervous. Now that there was no one else around, they were relieved. In front of us is the young sect master's palace. He Mu smiled and introduced to everyone. Everyone immediately looked to the front. Only the bedchamber was the most conspicuous. Bewitching is really amazing, living in such a big palace alone. This is simply a treatment that even the emperor does not have. By Junyu's side, this was really unattainable. Then we can still have such a friend. This is really lucky. Cui Haoyan smiled. However, just as everyone was about to enter the bedroom, an untimely and cold voice rang out behind them. This is the young sect master's palace. No one else is allowed to enter. Listening to this sudden voice, Xia Jiqing and the others turned around and saw a woman they didn't know. However, when they saw Han Xiling behind this woman, they had already reacted. Although they did not have much contact with Han Xiling, they could determine that Han Xiling was Bailey Hongzhuang's enemy. As a result, this Han Xiling was their enemy. Miss Han Xiling. He Mu looked at Han Xiling. Young sect master sent me to invite Miss Xia and the others back. Han Xiling nodded slightly, her cold and proud face without any emotion. I know, but when Big Brother D left, he already said that no one is allowed to enter his palace. So you can't enter either. He Mu frowned slightly, but his tone was neither servile nor overbearing. Miss Han, young sect master had instructed me to bring them to find Madam. Madam is in the bedroom, so I naturally have to bring them in. They are not within young sect master's boundaries, so I hope young Miss Han can forgive them. Ever since young sect master had asked him to draw a clear line with Han Xiling, he had already understood the hostile relationship between Miss Han and Madam. Just from Miss Han's current appearance, he could tell that Miss Han was deliberately looking for trouble. Under such circumstances, he naturally couldn't back down. Hearing He Mu's direct words, Han Xiling's eyes flashed with coldness. I don't know what you're talking about. I only know that Big Brother D specially instructed me to do this before he left. Since it was Big Brother D's order, they naturally could not disobey. You guys should just wait outside. If some random people go in and lose something, then it will be hard to explain. Han Xiling's lips curled into a sneer. She recognized that these guys were the group of cultivators from the Kanglin College with Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 1158. Han Xiling, what do you mean by that? Xia Jiqing's pretty face was full of anger. She had long been unhappy with Han Xiling. She didn't expect that Han Xiling would say something so excessive. If it was anyone else, it would be impossible for them to hold back their anger. Han Xiling sneered as he stared at Xia Jiqing. I've already said it so clearly, yet you still don't understand what I mean? It seems that the cultivators of the Azure Water School are also a group of stupid guys. Looking at Han Xiling's disdainful and mocking attitude, everyone's face was gloomy. They looked at Han Xiling with eyes full of disgust. Are you deliberately looking for trouble? Dongfang Yu's gentle jade-like face was covered with a layer of coldness. This kind of woman who looked high and mighty on the surface was just like a proud peacock. Perhaps in the eyes of others, she was full of infinite charm. But in his eyes, this kind of woman didn't have the slightest bit of femininity. Listening to Dongfang Yu's words, Han Xiling's disdainful smile widened a bit. Looking for trouble? Why don't you take a look at what grade you are? Are you worthy of me looking for trouble? You really are worthy of being Bailey Hongzhuang's friends. You are just as self-righteous as her. Ridiculous. As Han Xiling's voice fell, everyone could no longer suppress the anger in their hearts. Han Xiling, don't go too far. He Mu listened to Han Xiling's words and his brows furrowed tighter. The previous Han Xiling was not so excessive. At least on the surface, he still had a calm appearance. He didn't think that Han Xiling would have such an attitude after coming back this time. This aggressive appearance really made people feel disgusted. Miss Han, They are all friends of the young master and madam. It's inappropriate for you to speak like this. Heimu's voice was cold. No matter what, Han Shiling's attitude was too inappropriate. Listening to Heimu's words, Tao Tsongrong also stood up and said, Heimu, you are just a shadow guard. How dare you speak to the young miss like this? Apologize to miss right now. Tao Tsongrong looked at Heimu with her head held high. She felt that Heimu was siding with an outsider. In this kind of situation, he should listen to Mrs. Arrangements. However, Heimu coldly said, I am the young sect master's secret guard. I only listen to the young sect master's orders. I will not listen to anyone else. Tao Tsongrong was stunned. She did not expect Heimu to say such words. Han Shiling's face was as gloomy as water. He looked at Darkwood with displeasure. You mean you won't listen to me either? Miss Han, as young sect master's secret guard, I will naturally only listen to young sect master's orders. After Xia Jiqing and the others saw that Heimu could be so tough in the face of Han Shiling, their eyes couldn't help but reveal a light of amazement. Speaking of which, Han Shiling's actions today were completely to cause trouble for them. Fortunately, Heimu was firm enough. In this case, Big Brother D had already given this order when he left. Are you going to openly defy Big Brother D's orders? Han Shiling's lips were slightly hooked. Suddenly he changed the topic. Or in your opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang's orders are more important than Big Brother D's orders? Hey, aren't you being too unreasonable? Xia Jiqing looked at Han Shiling with disgust. This woman was simply indiscriminate. She could imagine that Hongzhuang's time in Tiangang sect was not easy. With such an annoying woman here, it was impossible not to be angry. Chapter 1159. Hei Ming and the others also came over after seeing the movement outside. Miss Han, the young sect master told us before he left that as long as Madam's friends come, we should let them in directly. Heimu nodded when he saw Hei Ming and the others. They were all the young sect master's shadow guards, and usually only listened to the young sect master's arrangements. Suddenly seeing the appearance of Hei Ming and the others, Han Shiling's expression also changed. She didn't know that Hei Ming and the others were here before. So, didn't Hei Ming and the others see her entering the palace before? Thinking of this, Han Shiling's face became even more ugly. Big Brother D's move was simply to guard against her. Seeing this, Xia Jiqing and the others also looked at Han Shiling with a chuckle. They wanted to see what Han Shiling could say in this case. Noticing the look of Xia Jiqing and the others, Han Shiling's eyes flashed with coldness. She immediately said, I don't know what you are talking about. No matter what, as long as Big Brother D doesn't come back, no one else can go in. Heimu frowned. The previous Han Shiling was not so unreasonable. Miss Han this. Without waiting for Heimu to finish speaking, Han Shiling had already interrupted her directly. If you think what I said is wrong, I can invite the 4 hall masters to judge. Seeing that Han Shiling's attitude was so firm, Heimu, Hei Ming and the others looked at each other. This situation was a bit difficult to handle. As the shadow guards of the young sect master, they also had a certain understanding of the situation of the young sect master. 2 of the 4 hall masters were against the young sect master. The most important thing was that once this kind of thing was made big, it was not a good thing. After all, the young sect master had brought Madam back before, and now he had invited Madam's friends back. Originally, this was not a big deal, but once someone used it as a pretext, the problem became big. Han Shiling crossed her arms over her chest, her expression arrogant and her eyes cold. A few mere shadow guards dared to provoke her. She wanted to see who was more powerful. Xia Jiqing and the others looked at each other. They didn't expect that someone would appear out of nowhere. This was troublesome. They didn't know much about Tiangang sect's situation, but from Heimu and the others' expressions, they could tell that the matter wasn't so easy to solve. Bailey Hongzhuang was cultivating in the stone room, when Xiaohei's voice suddenly rang out. Master, there's movement outside. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes. What's going on? Xia Jiqing and the others are here, but there seems to be a dispute. Let's go out and have a look. Xiaohei rubbed its head. Its spiritual power was very strong. Even if it was very far away, it could still sense the movements. However, the isolation of the stone room was also very good. It could only roughly understand what was going on. Knowing that Xia Jiqing had come, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes couldn't help but light up. However, after knowing that there was a dispute, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. It seemed that Xia Jiqing and the others had come back before Beichen. Bailey Hongzhuang picked up Baisher with one hand, while Xiao He and Xiao Bai jumped directly onto Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. One person and three beasts immediately went out. Even if she didn't see it with her own eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang could already judge the general situation. In this case, he was afraid that there was no second person besides Han Xiling, who was looking for trouble. Chapter 1160. When Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the palace, she saw such a scene. He Mu and others were in a deadlock with Han Xiling, and Han Xiling's overbearing appearance was even more disgusting. Hongzhuang. Seeing Hongzhuang appear, Xia Jiqing couldn't help but call out with joy. Since the last time Hongzhuang left, they hadn't seen her for a long time. Jiqing. With a happy smile on her delicate and perfect face, Bailey Hongzhuang quickly walked to Xia Jiqing's side. Zhang Yunfeng and others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, and a joyful smile appeared on their faces. After not seeing Bailey Hongzhuang for so long, they only felt very surprised. However, the current situation was obviously not the time to catch up. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at He Mu and Han Xiling. What happened? Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang come out of the palace, Han Xiling and Tao Tsongrong couldn't help but be stunned. Their eyes filled with an incredible light. Previously, they had been looking for Bailey Hongzhuang in the palace for a long time, but they hadn't seen Bailey Hongzhuang. They thought that Bailey Hongzhuang had left with Di Beichen, but they didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang was really in the palace. It was just that they hadn't been able to find her. How could this be? Han Xiling couldn't understand. She had previously searched every corner of the palace, but she didn't find the slightest breath that belonged to Bailey Hongzhuang. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang's hiding ability was so strong that even she was deceived? Thinking of this, Han Xiling was not willing to admit it at all. Madam, He Mu, He Ming, and the others bowed when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang. From the moment Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen got married, Bailey Hongzhuang had already become their wife. Other than young sect master's words, they only listened to Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing He Mu again, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. Thank you for your hard work. It's my honor to be able to work for young master and madam. Han Xiling's eyes flashed with a crazy light of jealousy when he saw how obedient Darkwood and the others were to Bailey Hongzhuang. She simply couldn't believe what she was seeing. He Mu and the others were actually so respectful to Bailey Hongzhuang. This was completely different from how they treated her before. Tao Tsongrong's face was also filled with astonishment. She knew that He Mu, He Ming, and the others only listened to young sect master's orders, and would not listen to anyone else's orders. In the past, the only person who could make He Mu and the others slightly more obedient was Han Xiling. However, even then, He Mu and the others had never been so obedient. It was only when they faced Bailey Hongzhuang that they were completely convinced. This was simply impossible. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang already had such a reputation in the hearts of He Mu and the others? What happened? Bailey Hongzhuang asked again, but her gaze had already turned towards Han Xiling. Obviously, Han Xiling was deliberately looking for trouble. Reporting to Madam, Miss Han said that young sect master had said before he left that no one was allowed to enter the bedchamber. Hence, he is not allowing us to enter now. He Mu reported truthfully. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a trace of ridicule. Looks like this Han Xiling was really at his wit's end, and could only come up with such meaningless reasons. Han Xiling stared coldly at Bailey Hongzhuang. Her reasons were completely valid, and she wanted to see what ability Bailey Hongzhuang had to change this situation. Chapter 1161. Xia Jiqing and the others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang worriedly. This Han Xiling was not a good guy to provoke. If he didn't already have a certain trump card, they believed that Han Xiling would not do this. However, in the face of Han Xiling's provocation, Bailey Hongzhuang did not look at him and directly said to everyone, Let's go in. As soon as her voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang directly turned around, as if she did not see the existence of Han Xiling. Seeing this, Xia Jiqing and the others could not help but be startled. However, they naturally listened to Bailey Hongzhuang's arrangement, and immediately turned around together with Bailey Hongzhuang, and walked towards the palace. He Mu, He Ming and the others were naturally no exception. Since the young sect master was not there, they would listen to the orders of the madam. As for the others, no matter who they were, they would not pay attention to them. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang directly ignoring his existence, Han Xiling's face became gloomy in an instant, his eyes full of resentment and disgust. Stop, Han Xiling said angrily. However, in the face of Han Xiling's threatening words, Bailey Hongzhuang did not seem to hear it, and did not even stop her footsteps. Seeing this, Han Xiling could not hold back. His figure flashed and directly blocked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. His delicate and cold face was full of anger. I'm talking to you, did you not hear me? So what if I heard you, so what if I didn't hear you? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. I said, before Big Brother D comes back, no one can enter Big Brother D's palace. Han Xiling's voice was hoarse, and his words were decisive. Bailey Hongzhuang's hands were crossed over her chest, her eyes unscrupulously looking at Han Xiling. Her beautiful pink lips were curved in a mocking arc, and the words she spoke were full of ridicule and contempt. I say, don't you feel bored after singing a one-man show for so long? She just couldn't understand why Han Xiling was still so stubborn despite everything that had happened in the conference hall. What do you mean? Han Xiling's eyes were dark and cold. Bailey Hongzhuang's confident look was an eyesore to her. I thought that a cold and arrogant person, like you, would have a strong sense of self-esteem. After such a direct and clean rejection, you should know how to avoid it. But now, it seems that I have overestimated your self-esteem. Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes flickered with a cold light. Her words were not polite at all. This Han Xiling kept finding trouble for her. She was afraid that if she didn't make it clear, this woman wouldn't understand what she was saying. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were like a sharp knife stabbing into Han Xiling's heart. Everyone understood what Bailey Hongzhuang was trying to say. That is, Han Xiling is shameless. Any woman with a little bit of shame would not behave like this after being rejected. But Han Xiling was still so unrelenting in finding trouble. Han Xiling felt as if she had been slapped by Bailey Hongzhuang in public. Her expression was extremely ugly, and her eyes were burning with anger. She wanted nothing more than to kill Bailey Hongzhuang. However, before Bailey Hongzhuang could say anything, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice rang out again. I want to bring them in. No matter what the consequences are, I will take responsibility. Chapter 1162. If you want to find the Great Elder to judge, then it's up to you. As soon as her voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang directly passed by Han Xiling in front of her, and walked in the direction of the palace. Before, Han Xiling had made things difficult for her, but now she dared to put on such an attitude towards her friends. It was really unbearable. At this point, Han Xiling had no other way. Even if she really found the Great Elder, it wouldn't change anything. Once things got out of hand, Han Xiling would be the one who would be embarrassed in the end. He Mu, Xia Jiqing and others also followed closely behind Bailey Hongzhuang, passing by Han Xiling and Tao Tsongrong. For this woman, they now only had disgust. Xia Jiqing and Zhang Yunfeng looked at each other. Their faces were full of amazement. They didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so domineering when she appeared. Thinking back to when they were in the Luoyun Mountains, Han Xiling's arrogant appearance was completely contemptuous of Hongzhuang. Now in just a short time, the situation had completely changed. Thinking of how Han Xiling was angered by Bailey Hongzhuang to the point of gnashing her teeth. Where was the original fairy-like posture? When Han Xiling saw Bailey Hongzhuang walking in front of her, she almost broke her teeth. Damn it, Han Xiling said angrily. This Bailey Hongzhuang really didn't put her in her eyes at all. Miss, this Bailey Hongzhuang is too arrogant. If we don't deal with her well, she will really be lawless in the future. Tao Tsongrong was also angry. She had never seen anyone in Tiangang's sect who dared to speak to the miss like this. This Bailey Hongzhuang was simply too arrogant. She'll know sooner or later that she's nothing. Han Xiling clenched her fists. Her murderous aura surged like a storm in her heart. She would never give Bailey Hongzhuang the chance to continue being arrogant in front of her. Looking at Han Xiling's furious expression, Tao Tsongrong didn't dare to say anything more. She believed that Miss would definitely have a way to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang. It wasn't until everyone came to the vicinity of Di Beichen's palace that the originally tense people relaxed a little. Madam, since Lady Xia and the others have arrived, I shall take my leave first. He Mu bowed to Bailey Hongzhuang and said respectfully. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and smiled. You must be tired from the long journey. Go back and have a good rest. Thank you, madam. After He Mu, He Ming, and the others left, Xia Jiqing was the first to approach Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, you were so domineering just now. That Han Xiling was simply angered to death by you. Yes, I really can't connect this Han Xiling with the previous Han Xiling. The contrast is too big. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She's now at her wit's end. It's been hard on you. Hearing this, Xia Jiqing waved her hand indifferently. What's this? When I think of Xia Jiqing's appearance just now, I feel a burst of joy. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the refreshing Xia Jiqing, and the smile in her eyes deepened. I haven't seen you for a while, but your temperament hasn't changed at all. Hongzhuang, I haven't seen you for so long. I missed you so much. Chapter 1163. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing, who were hugging each other, and their faces showed a happy smile. During the time when Bailey Hongzhuang left, Xia Jiqing had been missing Hongzhuang very much. They could feel this kind of longing. If Xia Jiqing hadn't insisted on waiting for Hongzhuang at the school, they wouldn't have had the opportunity to come to Tiangang sect. Speaking of which, they had to thank Xia Jiqing. Hongzhuang, you spent a lot of time going out to gain experience this time. I feel that your cultivation seems to have improved a lot. Dongfang Yu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. When he first met Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was not as good as his. After a year of cultivation, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength had surpassed his. He remembered that when they had just separated, although Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was stronger than his, he could still judge how much stronger she was compared to him. However, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang now, he couldn't judge at all. He couldn't feel any aura at all. With this point alone, he could be sure that Bailey Hongzhuang had improved a lot during this time. As Dongfang Yu's voice fell, everyone's eyes condensed on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. They were all very curious about how much improvement Di Beichen had brought Bailey Hongzhuang out to gain experience. Yes, Hongzhuang, what's your cultivation now? Xia Jiqing asked curiously. During this time, she had been working hard at the school to cultivate, and didn't waste any time. Her progress was very pleasing. In fact, it wasn't just her. The entire special enrollment class cultivators had made great progress. Feeling everyone's curiosity, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and said, My current cultivation is Orange Realm Level 1. With the improvement of her strength, the effect of the demon summoning scripture was also reflected. Presently, other than when she utilized her origin energy, other people were completely unable to discern her cultivation. However, with Bailey Hongzhuang's voice falling, Xia Jiqing and the others present all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze. They couldn't believe what they had heard. What did you say? Orange. Level 1. Did I hear that right? Everyone couldn't help but open their mouths wide. This news was too shocking. Although they had already imagined that Di Beichen would bring Bailey Hongzhuang out to train, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength would definitely increase by a lot. This speed of improvement was simply too fast. This was simply torturing them to death. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. You didn't hear wrong. It's true. They were all her friends, so there was no need for her to hide anything. What's more, they were all going to participate in the assessment competition together. They were companions whose lives depended on each other. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang speaking seriously, even if everyone felt that this idea was too difficult to accept, they also understood that this was the truth. Bailey Hongzhuang was a cultivation genius. They simply couldn't compare with Bailey Hongzhuang. They were completely looking for trouble. Originally, I was quite happy with the progress of my cultivation. Now that I know your strength, I don't feel the slightest bit of happiness. It's really too much of a blow. Xia Jiqing couldn't help but shake her head and sigh. It was too difficult for her to close the gap between her and Hong Zhuang's strength. Comparisons are odious. Bai Junyi sighed. Chapter 1164. After not seeing each other for a long time, everyone was chatting, and it was very lively. After some greetings, everyone also visited Bewitching's palace. They had never had such treatment. Hong Zhuang, fortunately you didn't marry Xianyuan Huan, haha. Xia Jiqing looked at Bewitching's palace and couldn't help but sigh. Xianyuan Huan and Bewitching were simply clouds and mud. If Hong Zhuang really married Xianyuan Huan, it would be a big loss. Listening to Xia Jiqing's words, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. Many things in the world were so coincidental. If it weren't for Xianyuan Huan breaking off the engagement, there wouldn't be so many things happening later. Thinking about it, she might not exist in this world. Tiangang Zong's young lord's wife, in the future, she will be Tiangang Zong's wife. This identity is enough to make people look up to her. Zhang Yunfeng's eyes showed envy. This kind of good fortune was really not something that anyone could have. Right, where did Bewitching go? Cui Haoyan couldn't help but ask. They had heard from Han Xiling that Bewitching had left, but they still didn't know where Bewitching went. He went to discuss the assessment with the other sections. He should be back soon. Her ink-black phoenix eyes were filled with smiles. Seeing this group of friends again, Bailey Hongzhuang's mood was also very good. When they knew that Bewitching had gone to discuss the assessment, everyone only felt that the gap was becoming more and more obvious. They still didn't know if they were eligible to participate in the assessment, but Bewitching had already become the organizer of the assessment. This was simply, everyone should be tired from rushing all the way here. Beichin and I have prepared a place for you to stay. Everyone should rest first. Bailey Hongzhuang's clear and bright eyes were filled with the light of concern. Her voice was gentle. The distance from Songlan School to Tiangang Zone was not short. Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone nodded in agreement. They had hardly stopped to rest during their journey here. Not only that, before arriving at Tiangang Sect, their mood was extremely excited, but now after relaxing, they only felt a burst of exhaustion and really needed a good rest. Seeing the exhaustion on everyone's faces, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately led everyone to the back room. Bewitching's palace was extremely large, so it wouldn't be a problem even if everyone stayed there. Logically speaking, they should be staying in the guests' residential area. But Han Xiling obviously wouldn't give up so easily. If they stayed outside, it would cause a lot of trouble. It was precisely because of this that she and Bewitching made this decision after discussing it for a while. Soon, everyone returned to their respective rooms. Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing walked into the room together. Hongzhuang, I think that Han Xiling is very fierce. Have you been bullied by her when you lived here? As soon as she entered the room, Xia Jiqing couldn't help but ask. When she thought of Xia Jiqing's overbearing appearance, she knew that she wasn't easy to get along with. Hongzhuang only had Bewitching to protect her in Tiangang Zone. Although she had never seen it with her own eyes, she also knew that with Hongzhuang's identity as the young lord of Tiangang Zone, it would inevitably cause a lot of opposition. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.